Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur, coming at you tonight. We're wrapping up a series which is, you know what that is, how and why we should forgive others. So, what I wanted to share with you right now is that if you're new, well, I want to say welcome to you. That's first thing. And if you are new, what you can do is you can go ahead and click on that QR code at the top right. Basically, you just take your phone and you scan it, and then you're able to click on it from your phone or mobile device. And if you are not new, well, welcome. As you guys know, every single week we have a series, and every day we have a specific topic that we talk about for that series. And hoping that many of my new people visiting today will become just like my trusted, loyal subscribers that have been with me for so long. Well, welcome everyone. We are here at John C. Morley's Serial Entrepreneurs page. We have finally made it. We have over 150 followers and growing, so really grateful for that. The reason we did that was because I had thousands of followers on my LinkedIn profile, but I really didn't have a specific target. Now that I have a page and people that want to watch this content, because on LinkedIn, it's important that you connect with people that you really want to connect with and not people that just, send you requests. I'm really picky about that. So what I wanted to share with you tonight is that, when we think about everything that we're doing and we think about, forgiveness, right? Forgiveness is something that's important. But when we think about tonight, right? Tonight, we're talking about a very, very interesting topic, and that is how and why we should forgive others. Incidentally, wrapping up my birthday week, and my wish for this week is to please follow this page on John C. Morley's Serial Entrepreneur if you have not already. So let's talk about the pain that happens when people don't forgive. So when people don't forgive, I think the biggest challenge is that they feel that they're going to be able to just stuff this in a closet or put this under a bed or a mattress and not have to worry about it. But the truth of the matter is, it's going to rear its head at you because deep in your mind that you're wrong. And when we're wrong, we have to admit that as gentlemen, as ladies, and not let that big ego rear its head. All right. So I promised you all week we would talk about forgiveness, right? And we talked about when we forgive, it actually allows us to take that big set of weights that we have on us. A lot of people in our world won't forgive you because they have an ego. That's right. And they need that ego to be fed. Other people won't forgive you because, again, related to the ego, they're always right and they never can be wrong. And if they're wrong, well, then see rule number 1, which says they're always right. I think that's insane. When somebody needs forgiveness in their life and it's not given, it's probably the worst thing that can happen. Somebody could go hours, days, weeks, months, and sometimes, hopefully not years, but sometimes months. In rare situations, it's years. When the other party realizes that, maybe we've taken this too far. Maybe I got a little too bent out of shape and I overreacted. I flew off the handle. But how do you fix something once it comes out of your lips or once you do something? How do you retract that? You can't. So you need to ask for forgiveness. Forgiveness. It's a word that not everybody uses. But people that choose to implement forgiveness in their daily lifestyle are happier people. They're more prosperous. They're more abundant because they're not glued to something. They realize that they're human and humans make mistakes sometimes. And thus, when we can appreciate that and come from that understanding, we realize that if we're human and other people are human, then forgiveness is okay. Now, I'm not saying to be wrong every 5 seconds, but what I'm telling you is that you need to embrace forgiveness. When somebody comes to you with a contrite, honest, and humble heart and asks you for forgiveness, you should forgive that person. Now, what if that person has done this to you? Oh, I don't know. Not the 70 times 70, right? We talked about that rule. But they did a couple times. How do you know whether you should forgive that person? If somebody comes to you multiple times, should you forgive someone that keeps asking for forgiveness? Should you forgive someone that keeps making mistakes? Should you? Hmm, that's a tough one. So forgiveness can get tricky, right? If you forgive someone, then what does that mean? When you forgive someone, that doesn't mean that you're reunited immediately. It can, it could start the pathway for that bridge, but it doesn't necessarily imply that. You can forgive, right? And some people say they forgive, but they don't forget. So, what does that mean? Well, it means that they forgive you for what you've done, but they're not going to trust you in that situation again. Now, that might seem harsh, but it is better than not getting forgiveness, right? Forgiveness. What if the person has repeatedly made the same mistake over and over again? And it almost doesn't seem like a mistake. It seems like a consistent habitual habit. What then? I think it comes down to the fact that if somebody is making the same mistakes over and over again, usually on the first time, you forgive them. The second time, you sit down and make sure they really understand. And then if they do it the third time, you take a little more time. You say, look, I've forgiven you once, I've forgiven you a second time. Like, this is it. Do you understand what you're doing? I mean, you're really causing me to lose respect in you. Because you can't just say that forgiveness is something you do indefinitely. If you do, people will start taking you for granted, and these mistakes become a consistent habit. Think about that for a moment. How many times do you let somebody go against you? Is it once? Is it twice? Is it three times? And if it keeps happening, do you change your attitude toward them? The first time you're probably very friendly and be like, I understand it was a mistake. And you don't really put much thought into it. But if it happens a second time, hey, Joe, what are you doing here, buddy? Oh, I'm sorry. My head was just not paying attention. Yeah, I get it. Just please be more careful next time. No problem. I forgive you. Now, 2 months later, It happens again. Yeah, man. Would you forgive me? Joe, what are you doing here? This happened a month ago. It happened 3 months ago, and it's happening again. Yeah, I know. It just there's a lot going on in my life. And then the person says, well, gee, what's going on? Let's talk about it. Oh, I don't want to talk about it. How can you forgive that person? And so you might say to them, look, I got to think about this. But I know one thing, if I forgive you, this is going to be the last time. Now, does that mean we're not nice? No, it means we are standing up for ourselves and not becoming a doormat. On that third time, if you forgive that person, and that person who has promised not to do it again, 6 months later, does it again, what do? Most people say, we're done. Unless there was a really strong, extenuating circumstance like a health issue, a family issue, or something like that. We're done. We're done. Some people have that threshold in a friendship where, there might be some boundaries. But for whatever reason, you crossed one. And then it's time to decide, well, wait a minute. What was the boundary? Did you understand the boundary? And if you do, great. But then you also might go through the other boundaries and make sure they just understand all of them. But then they break another boundary. Maybe it's not the same thing, but they break something in that list of boundaries that you've already agreed upon. A set of standards that you expect for trust and integrity. And they do it a third time. How can you possibly hang around that person? How can you have them in your life if they can't commit to being respectful? Now, does that mean that you're going to never talk to them again? No, it doesn't mean that. It just means that you might have taken them from, let's say, the inner circle, move them to the outer circle, and they're probably never going to go back to the inner circle again. And after time, like, hey, John, we're friends. Let's get buddy again. I'm sorry, I can't do it. Yeah, but you've known me so long, it's going to take years before I'm ready to even consider that, if I'm even willing to consider that. So I think that is a challenge. And I think a lot of people don't realize it until they're put into a timeout. That's why if you're going to forgive someone and you're not sure if they're going to do this again, sit down, have the talk with them. Make sure they understand. If they're not willing to have the talk with you, if they're not willing to listen to you, and make sure that you each confirm that you understand you're on the same wavelength, then forgiving them right away would probably be the worst thing you can do. I agree that we should forgive that person, but they might not have the maturity level, or they might not be taking you seriously because they go, oh, well, John just forgives everybody. See, you don't want that kind of a reputation, do you? No. So there are times when you have to realize that forgiveness has been abused, right? So we've talked about how to forgive. There's forgiveness by people that make an accident, like it's a mistake, it happens. There are people that intentionally do something wrong. So let's say one of those boundaries was broken, and this person did something deliberately wrong, and they knew it was wrong, and you found out about it. And then they come to you and say, hey, John, what are you doing, buddy? Oh, I didn't really think I didn't think you were going to be coming back so soon. And that's not a good excuse, right? That just means that you can't be trusted. That's what that means. So there's one little quick story I want to tell you about, and it's from high school. So there were several of us that were friends in school, and there were different cliques and whatnot. And I remember I lived in one town, and some other friends of mine lived like one or two towns away. Then I had another friend of mine that lived almost 20, 30 minutes away. And so calling people in my town or one or two towns over was a free call. Had my own phone line at that time. And there was this other friend that was close to 25, 30 minutes away. So when I called him, it would always cost money because it was what they called local long distance. And I don't know if you guys know this, but local long distance at the time was more expensive than long distance because they were billing you in this weird way. So then I learned about something called scope. Like, what's scope? No, it's not something you put in your mouth to rinse your mouth out to get rid of germs. Scope is something you put on your phone line, and it lets you add certain what we'll call exchanges, and you could pick um, like the exchange area you want to add in that town, and it was like I think it was like $10 a month or $12.99 a month, and so you'd put those exchanges on, and then when you called them, it would not be charged as local long distance, which was very expensive back then. It was just a regular local call. So you could stay on the phone for 5 minutes or 60 minutes or however long you wanted to stay on for, just for that $10 or so a month or $12 a month. I remember being on the phone, and I remember a person asking me a question and putting me in a very bad spot and asked me what I thought of someone. And I was honest and I said, I don't know. The person never tells me the truth, so I really can't tell you one way or another. And then they started to put words in my mouth like, so really they're not really that good anyway, and you're not really friends with them anyways. Well, I wouldn't say that. Well, you said you don't talk to them. Right, I don't talk to them. Right, so you're not friends with them. Well, I don't know. Yeah, you're not friends with them. Well, you're probably right then. And so now what happened is soon after that, the next day came and we're at school. And the person that they were trying to entrap me about was right there. Didn't say a word. And they were all suddenly very buddy buddy. People that weren't as close, but they were still in our group. And I didn't know how to read this. And I said, I don't get this to myself. And then I got a phone call. And when I got the phone call, they basically said to me, so what do you want to do? What do you want to do to get back at him? I'm like, I don't want to do anything. Well, what do you mean? I don't want to do anything. And I said, why is it that you're always asking me these questions that are so personal on the phone, but you don't ask them to me in person? He said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, you're always so busy in school and you never want to talk to me about anything unless it's about things you need. But whenever you want to find out something, you call me, and it's always after school. And then there's always this problem a few days later where somebody's annoyed at me. Um, I haven't even talked to the person, but it's almost like they knew what was going on. And I said, John, I don't know what you mean. I said, if I'm not mistaken, I have a strange hunch. I'm not 100% sure, but I have a strange hunch that you're double playing me. Well, what do you mean? Well, I'm on the phone talking to you, and something very interesting I noticed. I was attempting to call the person that you were talking about, and their line was busy. I called again while we were on the phone, and the line was busy. He said, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, I think what you're doing is trying to put me in a bad spot by using technology. So, what do you mean? I said, there's a new feature on the phones. You guys may or may not be familiar with it. It's called three-way. Oh, what's that? Well, that's when you can actually be on the phone with somebody and you can then tap the switch hook or touch the flash button and you could dial another number and that person could be on the line and no one would know that they're ever on the line. It's kind of dishonest. And as soon as I said that, they're like, oh, John, I have to get going. Dinner's ready. Okay, we'll talk another time. And then this person calls me back. And I said to them, I said, look, I don't want to talk to you on the phone. I'll talk to you in person. Next day, I talked in person. And I said, look, I don't know what's going on here. Okay. Or I should say, maybe I know what's going on, but I don't know why it's going on. And I think it's really bad the way I'm being brought up as a scapegoat because you're trying to out me so that we're not friends. What do you mean, John? I said, I know that you were on the phone every time I talked to X. I know you were on the phone. No, I wasn't. How else did you know everything that was going on? How did you know things I was doing when I didn't even share them with you? We all know that they weren't going to talk to you about me. And they were truthful that they never told anything about me to you themselves. That was a true statement. But they left something out. And that was the fact that they were using three-way technology, to have you listen in on the conversation. And from that moment on, I realized that none of them could be trusted on the phone. And I said, if you want to say something to me, say it to my face. If you want to talk to me in confidence, talk to me in confidence, but not on the phone. Because I can't trust you people anymore. And at the end of the week, it was kind of like this doldrum where we were all kind of quiet and the weekend happened and nobody called anybody. in our group. Came back in school. We had our tests, and we only had communication just for our tests so we could help each other with what was going on in school, and that was it. The end of the week came, and one of the guys said, "Oh, do you want to come over to my house this weekend?" I was like, "Why?" "Oh, I just thought we'd hang out. We're friends." And I said, "Yeah, we've been friends for a while, but why would you consider me your friend when you try to backstab me?" He says, "I don't understand. You think it's funny to do three-way calling and have people on the phone and not let me know that they're there and talking about something when I'm not really talking about them? You're specifically and deliberately asking me questions about them while they're on the phone. But when they're not on the phone, you don't ask me anything about them." You see, I don't need friends like that. A few more days went by, another week went by. We actually didn't talk for another week, except for being in class. And it was actually at one of our dances that I went to. And we all went with our dates, but I wouldn't talk to any of them because of the way they treated me. And so after that night, I got a phone call and said, "John, we can't go on like this." And I said, "Well, we're sure as heck not going to talk on the phone about it." So I was like, "Well, can we talk tomorrow?" I'm like, "Yeah, we could talk tomorrow." "Well, I live 28 minutes away. It's really far." And I said, "Well, then we could talk before class on Monday." "Oh, I don't want to go a weekend like this." "Well, why don't we meet somewhere in the middle? You're here, I'm here, they're next to me. Why don't we meet at this location? I'm sure that'd be fine." "Yeah, I guess we could do that." So all of us come together at this location on Saturday morning, and we're talking. And I just said to them, "I thought we were friends. And I don't know how else to say this to you, but you keep trying to dominate things, whoever's more friendly with them this day or that day. And we're all friends, but it's like we're playing this game." And I said, "I don't want to play this game anymore. I think we should all treat each other equally, and we should respect each other. And if we can't do that, then we probably should go our separate ways." And we talked for a little while. We had some lunch. And they said, "John, you're right." I said, "Right about what?" "You're right. We shouldn't be doing this anymore." I said, "We've got like 2 years left here. We're in our sophomore year. We've got 2 more years, 2.5 years left in high school. Why don't we enjoy it instead of jerking each other around and trying to backstab each other? Why are we doing this?" Because I don't need friends like this. And then they suddenly realized that, we need to stop doing this. We need to be friends with each other. And we stayed friends until about the time we graduated. We stayed friends. We talked. Everybody else kind of went their separate ways. A couple of them I stayed in touch with when I was home sometimes from college. But there was always this animosity. And that's when I knew that these friendships were never going to last. These were never really friendships. These were based on, let's call it perceptions. And if you didn't fit into their mold of what they wanted, they made fun of you, they teased you, and they talked behind your back. But then they made you think that you're friends. So I remember, I think it was in my sophomore year of college, that two of the four people came over. We hung out, we went to the movies, and came back to my place, had some pizza. And after we did that, they started to realize that I think this isn't where they want to be. But at that point, they were too embarrassed to even ask for forgiveness. I would have given it to them if they were humble. There was another person I knew that was in our group, hadn't called me or contacted me in years. Lives in the same town as me. But they always have an air. They always have to try to impress you. Those aren't friends. Those are people that are after what you have and what you will have. So I bring this to your attention because this little thing called three-way calling was an interesting discovery because it helped me understand who my friends really were. And what I learned in high school was that I had a lot of acquaintances, had a lot of people that wanted to know me, but not really a group of people that I could stand by. Yeah, everybody was cordial and nice at graduation, all that good stuff. But when graduation ended, only two of those people wanted to hang out. Things happened with their families. The lie or the stories that they made you believe started to unravel. One sold their house and they moved somewhere else. And after that point, they couldn't live that story anymore. And they didn't want to talk to me. I never said anything bad toward them, but they started to realize that the story that they were playing in their head and they were sharing with me was a lie. And I think they realized that if they kept hanging out with me, that I was going to find this out, which I found out anyway. But I think they were more scared about what I was going to do, or that I might have said I don't want to be with them. So their answer was to just say they were too busy to hang around me. Another person that wasn't really a friend, but was an acquaintance. It's always very cordial and whatnot, but at the end of the day, they're not going to help you. They're not going to do anything for you. And so, if they would have embraced forgiveness, we probably would still be friends today. And then there was the other group of guys at school, and they had their own clique. And although they would be friendly with you, you were never going to be their friend. Just the way they were. I'm bigger than you. I'm better than you. And today, some of these people have good jobs. Some don't. But if you're doing something just a little bit better than they are, and not to ever brag about it, they don't want to give you the time of day to embrace what you're doing. You're starting a new business, or you have a new concept, or a new patent, or anything. They suddenly just want to avoid you rather than patronizing your business or helping you. They're too busy. They're traveling. So I leave a thought with you tonight. We think about forgiveness and when and how to render that. And we also think about something else. And that is, are you too busy to forgive people? Or are you too busy to understand? Or is there an ego playing in your head that's so loud that you can't hear any other station or anybody else speaking because all you can hear is that ego that just keeps wanting to get fed? Ladies and gentlemen, this has been an amazing week about forgiveness. And this is a topic that really hits down below the belt for some, because it really drives at your inner core. And when people realize you can't just slip this under a rug or in a closet, because it actually affects your mind, your body, your nervous system. When you have the weight of wanting to be forgiven and you're not, or you're waiting for it, it can take a toll on your life, your health, it can drain you. So I want you to understand that forgiveness is something you have the power to free somebody. Don't hold them captive. If they honestly want you to forgive them, if they're humble, and this isn't like a repeat offense, don't let your ego be the thing that prevents you or blocks you from sharing the compassion and the gift of forgiveness that you could give others. And in the same breath, if you're looking to get forgiveness, make sure you're doing it with a humble and contrite heart. And if somebody does not forgive you, I want you to realize one thing. If they haven't forgiven you, forgive yourself. Because at the end of the day, if you can't forgive yourself, no one will ever forgive you. I hope you'll tag your friends, colleagues, and associates. Comment below. Show me some love. Follow the channels. Share it out with everyone you know on social media. And then go to youtube.com. Type in my name, John space C space Morley space serial entrepreneur. Look for the key phrase to help keep our content free. And below that, make the choice to click on that PayPal link to buy my team and I a cup of coffee. We're so grateful with those pennies, those dollars, and investments we get. We'll put them into new technology, hardware, software, staff, to give you the most jaw-dropping, motivational, inspirational content. And I hope that you all can understand that we all have the power to forgive, and we all have the ability to ask for forgiveness. Be humble and ask for forgiveness if you need it. And if somebody needs your forgiveness, open up your heart and let them be released into freedom, because it'll also release you into freedom. Because when you don't forgive someone, you tighten up and you hold that inside you. Maybe not as much as the other person, but you still hold that baggage. And nobody wants baggage. I'm John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. It's been a privilege, a pleasure, and an honor. I know a little bit longer than usual tonight. And we're getting ready to gang up some great guests coming up in March and April. So really excited about that on the Inspirations for You show. And we will talk to you tomorrow, which is Saturday, February 26th, with another specific series that will be sure to blow you away. Have yourself a great night and a wonderful morning, and I'll be back tomorrow. Take care, everyone.